Once upon a time, there was a boy named Ben Costachunk. Ben Costachunk's family, the Costachunk clan, lived in England for generations until Ben's grandfather, Minipi Costachunk, decided to move his clan to China and buy a house there with his retirement money. Ben was born and raised in Beijing, and he loved the city he and his family had lived in for the last 70 years. However, to Ben's dismay, on the 70th anniversary of his clan's move and his 20th birthday, they found that, according to 70-year land use rights of China, they no longer had the rights of ownership to their beloved home. The clan had forgotten to reapply for the land use rights and was forced to leave Ben's childhood home. In pursuit of happiness, Ben decided to move back to the land of his grandfather, England. It was an unexpectedly bright and sunny day when Ben came across a beautifully decorated building, somewhere vaguely in central London, with a large sign posted on it from Nero Estate Agency. There, he met the kindly Mr. S. Banks, the owner of Nero Agency, who was more than welcoming to Ben, as he was also once a new immigrant in England. He offered Ben a flat for just £350 in vaguely central London, with all bills included. It seemed like everything was coming into place for Ben until that rainy Monday morning when he was meant to move in. The estate agent told him that he could not move into the property until his future flatmates, all strangers to him, signed the contract as well. Ben was left homeless, without a penny to his name, because he had given everything he had for the deposit for the flat and had not found a job yet. Nevertheless, Ben, the tireless optimist, knew that everything would be fine once he moved into his newly furnished apartment in 2 weeks. The 2 weeks went by quickly because Ben made a friend. When Ben finally moved into his flats, he met his new flatmates, two Italians who spoke no English apart from the phrase, "You alright?" in an Italian accent. The flat looked like a shithole, filled with rats and bugs hiding in every crevice and corner. Ben tried to pretend it wasn't so bad, until his kitchen sink got blocked and he was forced to wash his dishes in the bathroom. Then his bathroom sink got blocked, and Ben had to wash his dishes in the bathtub. Things got even worse after that. At the end of the first month, his rent went up almost £200, and bills were no longer included, and he found out about council tax. To avoid council tax, Ben thought it would be a good idea to apply to the local Dunkin' Donuts University. However, because Ben was a non-European student, the fees for the university were more than he expected, and much more than he could afford. The roof and ceiling of Ben's new apartment were crumbling, his walls covered in mold and his mold covered in lice. He began questioning whether he should call his new home a home. Days, weeks, months passed, and nothing changed. Ben learned to work around the problems of his flat, and to live among the lice, rats, and mold as if they were also tenants. Dishwashing and bathing go hand in hand. There are buckets strategically placed beneath the holes of the ceiling to collect rainwater. And he's lost a lot of weight, and most of his hair, because he cannot afford to eat while the lice happily chew on his scalp. One afternoon, Ben comes home, exhausted from work, and forgets to wear the gas mask that protects him from inhaling the living fungus and bacteria of the flat. It isn't long before he begins to feel lightheaded. Soon he can no longer walk and his legs fold underneath him. And his eyes dim into complete darkness. He wakes up dehydrated and reaches for the closest bucket filled with last week's rainwater. In his disoriented state, Ben completely forgets about the broken floorboard and falls head first through the floor, knocking himself out cold against the dusty concrete underneath. A month later, the landlord comes by to collect Ben's rent, which has not been paid. In the house, he finds no living human. Clearly, Ben was an unreliable tenant, like foreigners tend to be. He probably got hopped up on that crack heroin stuff and got himself deported, Mr. Bug hissed to himself. He begins work to clean up the flat, and he fixes the floorboard with a bit of Gorilla Glue and puts the place back on the market. All is well.